It's said that they've lost over 100 billion rands in terms of value of the company. Yesterday it lost 60%, today it lost another 43%, and in its European listing today it shed 37%. So this share is worth around 10 rand today, but at the beginning of the week it was much as 80 rand, and that gives you an idea of just how much value it's lost. So this 16 billion, whilst it sounds like a lot, they've actually lost much, much more in value. Meanwhile, it's claimed that members of the government employees pension fund may have lost about 12.5 billion through losses in investments in Steinhoff. The Public Servants Association, the second largest public service trade union and representing more than 230,000 members of the fund, said that it would approach the Public Investment Corporation and the GEPF to determine the full extent of these losses. Well, joining us now is Tahir Maepa, who's the Deputy General Manager for Members Affairs at the Public Servants Association. And perhaps one doesn't know where to start with a story like this, Mr. Maepa, but I guess a grave concern.
We are extremely concerned about this news. 16 billion, 12 billion rand for public servants, that's a lot of money. It is something that really brought a shock to us, and basically it re-emphasizes our position to say that we really need to play a far much bigger role into the bigger scheme of things, because these investments are monies of public servants, hard earned monies, and overnight all of it gone. And it is something that we've been raising for a couple of months to say that as unions we need to start playing a vital role in making sure that we look at how our members' monies are invested. And this situation basically reconfirms our resolve to say that we cannot allow business as usual at the PIC. We need to be allowed to participate there. And like we have promised and written to the Minister of Finance, Minister Gigaba, if he's not going to allow us to be part of the process to play an oversight role, we are definitely taking him to court to compel him to comply with the PIC Act, which says that the depositors should have a representative. And for him to simply ignore the investors on PIC, none of us are part of the board, clearly states, basically suggests that there's always sinister motive why they don't want us to be there. And we are not just going to look away and allow our members' money to be lost like this. We are definitely going to take them on and make sure that we secure at least the remaining 1.6 trillion that is still being held at the PIC.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about your dealings with the minister, but I'm just wondering, what kind of participation would you like? How significant is the participation that you're looking for?
Well, we are a significant shareholder. We basically owns 80% of the PIC assets, meaning that we are the big brother in the bigger scheme of things. And for us not to be involved at all, that is a travesty of justice. We believe that we need to at least constitute the same number of percentage within the board to make sure that whatever the investments that have been made are investments that are sound and are investments that are justifiable. The PIC as an institution, it has been doing well over the years. But the moment we picked up that there's an attempt to raid the PIC from the minister's office to bail out SOEs that are basically disastrous businesses, we then said, no, we're not going to allow it. Now, this goes beyond the public investment. The private investment, clearly, it's also a problem. And we need to make sure that by sitting on the board, we can play an oversight role to make sure that those investments are sound investment and our members' monies are secured.
All right, so let's get some clarity here. You as government employees, make contributions to your pension fund, the GEPF. The GEPF then hands over these funds to the PIC to invest on their behalf. And the PIC really should have seen the Steinhoff drama playing out, but they didn't. They dropped the ball like many other asset managers. And as a result, you as contributors to the pension fund are losing out. And what you're saying is that you want to be part of the investment process at PIC.
Definitely, not only at the PIC, even where the PIC invests, because there's certain institutions or businesses where PIC is investing, where PIC is literally 100% shareholding. So even in those businesses, we need to make sure that those businesses are run properly and our members' investment are worth that particular risk. Currently, we are not playing any role, none whatsoever, which is against the principle of the Act, which basically determines that unions or the depositors, which happens to be our members, should have representatives. And Malusi Gigaba obviously has ignored those calls to say that we need to play a role. Today we had a meeting with PIC with regards to this whole saga to also try and find out what is the extent of this situation. And out of that meeting, one thing came out very clear. They themselves don't know the extent of this disaster, and they are working around the clock to try and get to the bottom of it. But having said that, that doesn't take away the fact that we have lost money, and somebody must take responsibility for those losses. Our members' money must be recovered in one way or the other.
Mr. Maepa, isn't it, though, the nature of risk whenever you invest on the JSE or any other market that some of those shares are going to drop, they're going to fail, sometimes marginally, sometimes spectacularly. And to be fair to PIC, they've enriched your pension holders quite significantly over time.
Definitely, PIC over time has been a good asset manager. We don't take that away from them. They've been doing very well as far as that. And the 12 billion compared to the 1.6 trillion that they are still holding, you would say that is insignificant. However, it's important not to be oblivious. If 12 billion can just evaporate overnight, what are the chances that the rest of our money can suffer the same fate? We cannot wait for a disaster for us to act. We are saying we want to act now and make sure that such a thing can marginally be avoided. Investments are risky, we understand that. However, we cannot over-risk our members' pension funds. We need to make sure that whatever that we invest in, the PIC also monitors how these funds are run and whether they are not run by unscrupulous people. And clearly this whole issue, there's a lot of unanswered question in terms of exactly what had transpired. The shares cannot fall like a rolling mass action like it is now. There's something behind this, and we believe that there has to be corruption that is involved that made these shares to fall.
All right, so Mr. Maepa, I'm so sorry we've run out of time, but thank you very much indeed for raising this issue and sharing your insights with us this evening.